Welcome to Fire Takes Podcast. I am Tim, and I am, in fact, not joined by my co-host and partner in life, Gwen, today.
With you in spirit.
Today is the 4th of July, and that really has almost nothing to do with why we did not record a whole episode for you today. But it's a convenient excuse. We've just been busy with stuff and kind of worn out. And I've titled this episode "The Dog Days of Summer" because that's what I feel like we're in. So what I have done for you guys is I went back and looked at all of our episode statistics, found some of our least downloaded episodes, and found the best stories from those least downloaded episodes to make a best of episode for you guys. Hopefully there's some stories you haven't heard here, and I hope you really enjoy the episode. We will be back with you in a couple of weeks here. Talk to you soon.
All right. Well, What is our first story today?
Okay, we got a good first story here. How to split finances when one is fired and one isn't firing. My partner is now lean fired with $35,000 of income per year in a high cost of living area. I'm not currently interested in FIRE. We've been together for almost 10 years. We've never been interested in formal marriage, but we did just move in together and we're trying to sort out finances in areas that now require splitting, plus life ahead where my salaried income is higher than his investment income. I obviously wish we'd finished our financial discussions together prior to moving in together, but sometimes life happens. I'm afraid. My question is, does the FIRE community have any advice for me on how to develop an equitable financial plan with him for the areas we need to split, rent and furniture? I've been super supportive of his FIRE plan all these years, but now I'm struggling with his choice some more. For the whole time I've dated him, I was making around $40,000, so we barely noticed a difference to his $35,000. Now I'm making $80K, and it's not clear what will happen to my income from here. Might go up a lot, or might stay around there. Out of haste, we split our current rent unevenly. I pay 20% more than him, but I'm struggling with the idea that I'm paying more rent than him and working full-time while he's living an ultra-flexible lifestyle. I'm also struggling with the idea that he will have more leverage over any future shared financial decisions since he can decline at any time to split a prospective cost with me, but I can't force him to spend money he doesn't want to spend. Finally, I'm struggling with the idea that he actually has tremendously more savings than me, but I'm spending more, and if I want to increase our standard of living, I will need to spend more and more to accommodate him. We are searching for a sense of equity. Anytime I suggest specific responsibilities with specific monetary costs, I can estimate for them. Example, him using his time to deep clean. Or start talking economically about a deal. He bristles. He says he wants to do things out of love and care and not based on economics. But I'm struggling because it is economics. There is a specific extra number of dollars I'm now spending each month for what feels like subsidizing his job-free lifestyle. Does this all leave us with any room? How do couples navigate financial equity when one partner is fired and one is not doing FIRE? Is it just about me radically accepting that his budget is his budget, or have others invented creative solutions?
That is...
It's a pickle.
It is a conundrum.
We know a lot of people who have fired and retired early, never run into this one, though.
Yep.
It's problematic. With them not being married, everyone we know who's successfully fired has done it as a partnership. Or, I'm sorry, there are single people, but every couple who's fired has done it as a partnership, right?
Let me think. I know a lot of people. Yeah, I think everybody in a partnership situation is officially married.
Right. That's tough it's tough to have a roommate that you're in love with. That is such, right. Okay, sure. It's tough to have a roommate that you're in love with, period. Additionally, it's tough when you have financial inequalities like this. Like, this is an extreme one.
Yeah. And I really think that, effectively, she is subsidizing his lean fire lifestyle.
Right.
And
He's bum fire. Let's be
someone in the comments said he's financially dependent, retired early. I think I agree with that one too.
Yeah, because that's not even wife fire. Like I've yeah, we know people who are wife fire, but
like that's okay because
it's different.
It's ours together, right?
That's a partnership.
Yeah, that's a
an
you
agreement.
and me thing, not just I have mine already and now. You know what? I do know of one couple that was in a situation like this, and I remember hearing this, and I didn't understand how they were making it work because she had retired early. They didn't have any finances in common. He spent every penny possible, and she was retired.
Yeah.
But I think she wasn't necessarily lean fire, which is, I think, the real crux of the issue. Because if her partner had fired with an income of $100,000 a year, this isn't a problem. But it's a conflict because he had all these assumptions baked in about only spending $35,000. Right. And that's not a whole lot of money.
It's not a lot of money.
In a high cost of living area, especially when you change up your entire lifestyle and move in with your partner.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have any ages, but the feel of this is that they're still young, like 30s, maybe 40s even. That's young. I mean, I assume if he's taken $35K out, he made almost $1 million. He quit short of $1 million, which is great, but you're really taking your partner down with you.
Yeah. Yeah. She's got $80K now, and there's a lot more that you can do with life when you have $80,000 coming in as opposed to 40.
One way we could think about this, right, is that's a little closer to home. If you listen to episode 0, where I interviewed Gwen, she had a plan at one point to lean fire out at 35. And we looked at her savings, and she's right around that savings point. How could we make that work? Say you came to me and you're like, hey, I really want to contribute $25,000 a year to the household and let's go, right? I'm going to quit my job. Even with us being married, that feels really hard for us to work out, right?
Well, and so that's about $3,000 a month after taxes, which is what the OP said that he has. My share of our finances is what, $1,800?
If you take all of your personal expenses out.
Yeah, if I take all my personal expenses out and everything, based on our incomes at the moment, right? We said that I would pay X percentage of our expenses based on the amount that I bring in because you earn a little bit more than me. So theoretically, we could probably make that work. But I think the real crux of the issue is that it doesn't feel like her partner is contributing to the household in other ways.
Right.
So if he, specific monetary costs that they can estimate, like him using his time to deep clean, he gets upset, which says that he's not doing that.
Right.
He's not deep cleaning. If I stayed home and just lived off of savings, you bet your bippies that I would be contributing in other ways, right? I'm defraying the amount of mental overhead that comes with running a household.
Yeah.
I'm getting the garbage out. I'm emptying the dishwasher. I'm going grocery shopping, cooking meals and running errands and picking things up and like whatever I could do for you to make it easier because you have to work 8 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it feels more like her partner just kind of wants to do his own thing and not really contribute more in other ways other than money.
Well, maybe that's one way they could go about this. We've talked a lot about how the lean-fired partner could give more. But what if OP gave less, i.e., she started living on $35,000 of her $80,000 income a year and started throwing all of the rest of that money into savings. She said that she recently was making around 40. So maybe they just get rid of whatever lifestyle creep that they've gathered up. Now they're sharing a household. Maybe they should be able to come back down to that. That's one way that at least OP and her partner could attack this is just stop basically saying, hey, you're contributing $35K, me too.
I mean, well, I don't know how realistic that is for a high cost of living area though.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, she's paying 20% more than him for rent because she wanted a place that was a little bit nicer. And a little bit nicer to her meant has a dishwasher.
Right.
So we're like, the problem with lean fi is that you just have no flexibility, no give whatsoever. And you are locked in at your choices forever. Mm-hmm. That's why I gave up lean fi, is because I realized that was unrealistic. And if I was living a budgeted lifestyle that I thought I was going to make, I would be stuck at basically poverty wages for the rest of my life. I could go earn more money a year working at Panda Express than my original amount that I had set.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed you this weekend fawning over the income levels at Panda Express. So I didn't realize where your head was.
If I could work at Panda Express as a manager and earn almost the same amount of money that I'm making at my job, like, maybe that's... I would never go back into retail.
Yeah.
Because I would work a hell of a lot harder for my money at Panda Express than I do at my job. But
you got customers and employees that you got to deal with.
Oh no. People.
Lots of people. Okay. So there are a couple of edits here from OP. One, he's really been encouraging me to see this as a position of strength. For instance, if you lived alone, you would have bought X piece of furniture on your own, but now you have me subsidizing some of your purchase. I'm having trouble getting behind that logic, though. It feels a little twisted to me. It's not wrong, but you're an asshole.
Yeah. You're not wrong, but he might be an asshole.
Edit 2. He's also said that he is more willing to bend on one-time expenses, that he has some time to strategize around. He has ways to pick up ways to pick up a small amount of money with foresight versus a recurring expense like rent, which he's really hard to go back on. This makes sense to me from a FIRE perspective. Okay, sure.
Fair enough, I guess.
And then a step towards resolution. I like this. Thanks for the massive number of replies. For any future readers with related situations, we've agreed to explore the following line of logic, inspired by a few posts here. His 35,000 FIRE number is a baseline lifestyle was set by him independently, long before he asked me to live together. He was fully accepting the reality of life with roommates, and I was totally content to live alone. But he strongly preferred a life where we cohabitate, and I was open to this. What we have never done is sit down and attempt to agree on a shared baseline lifestyle to split 50-50, where we collectively sort things into baseline needs for a satisfactory shared standard of living versus things that clearly exceeded baseline for one of us. It may fail, but we're going to be exploring drafting a new budget that we both buy into as our baseline. This would likely increase his actual FIRE number given he wants to live with me. We want to try to put some numbers to roughly how much his actual FIRE number would increase and how much additional working or financial rejigging would be required. I feel super icky about the idea of him going back to work to pay for the things he doesn't care much about, but we don't yet know how much more money we're really talking about here. That will determine how viable this strategy is. The thing he does care about is living with me, so there's a lot of layers of debate, compromise to consider. Any cost beyond our newly agreed upon baseline would be assumed to be fully covered by me. I mean, do we just change the name of this whole podcast to People Should Talk to Each Other?
Have you thought about communicating with your partner?
This sounds like a path forward, right? Get on the same page, make a budget. Nothing cosmic there in her solution. It's less extreme than the solution I provided, I would say.
Straight to jail.
Straight to jail. Believe it or not, jail. So, okay. Yeah, talk about it. Like, if you are in your life are having problems in your relationship that you think are money problems, talk about it. They're communication problems. Yep. 9 times out of 10, they're communication problems in your relationships.
And if OP feels taken advantage of and shoves that very deep down, then she's going to start to resent her partner, and it's not great.
Yeah, no, it's not great.
Sorry. I am just really distracted right now by our cat Bartholomew on the stairs found like a cricket or something, and he is having the time of his life on our stairs over there.
Get it. All right.
He like pushed it under the stair tread. You can just see one antenna. All right, I'm back.
All right, we're back. We're back.
I'm not distracted anymore.
Okay.
Take number 2.
Yeah. This one is, once again, from AITAH. Am I the asshole refusing to share my bonus with my fiancé's family? I, 30 male, work in tech and had a fantastic year at my job. I recently received a significant year-end bonus, $50,000.
Get it, King?
There you go. I was thrilled. I've been saving for years to buy a house, and this bonus is going directly into my house fund. My fiancé, 28 female, knows this and was initially very supportive.
Of course.
Then she dropped a bomb on me. She asked if I could spare $25,000 of my bonus to help her parents pay off their mortgage. Apparently, her parents have been struggling financially, and she feels it's only fair since we're going to be married and they're going to be my family too. I said no. I've worked extremely hard for this money, and while I feel for her parents, I don't think it's my responsibility to bail them out, especially when I've never even been asked directly by them. Her response? She called me selfish and accused me of not caring about her family. She then brought up how her parents have sacrificed so much for her, and it's the least I could do. She's been cold to me ever since. She also told her parents about my bonus without my permission, and now I'm getting guilt-tripped by them. They haven't outright asked for money, but they've made several comments about how lucky I am to have extra cash and how some people don't get that kind of opportunity. When I mentioned that I plan to use the money to help secure our future with a house, my fiancé said, "What future? You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me. I don't think I should have to justify how I use my bonus, but now even my own friends are split on whether I'm being responsible, reasonable, or stingy." Am I the asshole?
Not the asshole. That is so incredibly manipulative on her part.
Yeah.
If they've sacrificed so much for her, then she can help them pay their mortgage. Like, why is her family his obligation?
It's interesting. And I do wonder, he says it's a $50,000 bonus. Well, if he's paying taxes on that, that's like a $35,000 bonus.
Yeah, they evaporate so quickly.
Yeah, now they're asking for the lion's share of his bonus to help pay off their mortgage. But if they're $25,000 from paying off their mortgage, they've been paying that mortgage for a long time, and they've done it for 25 years probably. So it's, yeah.
Well,
how hard are they struggling?
I mean, I would do the Carl thing, right? I would sit down with the parents and ask them for all of their financials and see where maybe there's some issues that could be ironed out, and maybe direct more of that to the mortgage.
Yeah, I think some good financial advice would be helpful here. But once again, we're out in normie land, right? We're not in financial independence. We're not in the FIRE subreddit. So this $50,000 may be representing all of OP's money, right?
Yeah.
And my guess, it must be, because if he was sitting on a large 6-figure nest egg, right, his fiance would have probably shown her colors long before. And speaking of that, can we talk about, like, he may have dodged a bullet here?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, $50,000 is a small price to pay for figuring out, your future partner's true self.
Right. And that she's not interested in building something together, right? She's looking outward. It's one thing if they were middle-aged, right? They had got their financial house in order, and okay, cool, let's look back and help the people who got us here. But whenever they're just starting out and they have not bought their own house yet, right? And this could be their key to the quote unquote American dream, or at least starting it. I mean, you've got to look at where your situation is, where you are, in the arc of your life.
OP's fiance wants to have him light himself on fire to keep her family warm.
Yeah.
And that doesn't end well for the fuel.
No.
It's just when the fiance said, "What future? You're already showing me you don't care about the people who matter to me." It's giving very strong vibes that I had in my last relationship. Oof. Where he was very concerned that I wouldn't be able to take care of him with his chronic condition in the future. Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Excuse you, I'm sick right now. And you're not taking care of me right now."
Yeah.
Like, maybe this is a sign that you and I are not meant to be.
Right. Yeah. Once again, yeah, sounds like you got a peek into your future for a fairly low cost of a rough flu.
Yeah. Yep. Dipped out, and now I'm doing so much better with you.
Oh. Thanks, babe.
Yeah, and I think there's also cultural expectations here too, where there's a lot of cultures like Indian cultures and some Asian cultures that say, we will sacrifice everything to get you into a great spot, and then you are expected to pay us back with care and support in our later years.
Right. Yeah, I don't get any vibes that this is a cultural issue. I think this feels American to me. This feels pretty standard that, hey, let me get the money from this guy and give it to my parents. And one thing I wanted to point out too is whenever she says, "You're already showing you don't care about the people who matter to me," like, does OP not matter to her? Right?
Right? Yeah. This feels like she's pushing to see how far her meal ticket really goes.
Right.
And I think she overplayed her hand.
Yeah.
Big time.
Yeah. And top comments are, if they sacrifice so much for her, she should help them pay their mortgage. I would think long and hard about continuing with this one. This is going to be your life. She's happy volunteering your money, and then she's childish when you tell her no, not the asshole.
Yeah, pretty sure this is going to be the rest of your life. You being expected to pay for her and her family. If you want that, go for it. Also, prenup.
Oof. Yeah. Once again, I don't get the vibes that this is a guy who has a nest egg, because once again, she would have been feasting on that already, I think.
Yeah, true, but still, I mean, she's got a good job.
Yeah. It's going to be, I don't know that you can get a prenup that says, we start with nothing, but everything we earn, I want to keep because I'm going to earn most of it.
I mean, you can make a prenup say whatever you want, whether or not it's legally enforceable.
Yeah, whether or not a judge will actually enforce it is another whole other question.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't make a fair and equitable prenup that says that, I guess. That I would want to enter a relationship with, right? I think prenups are important, and when they are done for the interest of everyone involved. But if it's, hey, I don't trust you, so I'm going to write this punitive prenup for you to sign, that I think maybe you should just reconsider that relationship instead.
Yeah, just save yourself the $4,000 from a lawyer and just break up.
I mean, Godspeed, OP. I hope everything works out.
Good luck to OP.
Our story today is from our Am I the Asshole? IATA, mother-in-law gifting us 5 timeshares in her will, costing us $9,500 annually. We asked her not to do this, and she lost it. My mother-in-law is, quote-unquote, gifting us 5 timeshares in her will, in which the administrative amount will cost us $9,500 annually. We are not interested in owning timeshares, nor are we interested in paying that much in admin cost. We asked an attorney, and he said it is expensive and a hassle to try to get rid of the timeshares. So we politely and respectfully asked mother-in-law not to leave those to us in her will. She absolutely lost it and was extremely upset, saying we were ungrateful and that she is refusing to change her will. We asked if she would be willing to go ahead and transfer the timeshares to someone else before her death, but she refused. Am I the asshole? And there is a important edit here, edited to add. There is a perpetuity clause on these timeshares. She is not leaving my husband and I any money. In fact, she has lots of debt, only leaving us the timeshares.
Not the asshole.
Not the asshole. Can you imagine someone with 5 timeshares has a lot of debt?
I am shocked.
I'm appalled. I cannot believe that someone who has shown such
great decision-making processes.
Right, sound financial decision-making has 5 timeshares. Right?
5 timeshares?
5.
Usually people only get settled with 1, but these poor guys get stuck with 5?
Yeah.
That cost $10,000
a year.
Just in administrative fees.
Yeah.
They're paid off. This is just what it costs to maintain them.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. We don't get any information on OP.
We don't know how old they are. We don't know where they're at in life.
Does $10,000, is that a huge deal to them? Are they really well off? Where $10,000 is a drop in the bucket, and and maybe they wanted to take 5 vacations a year to the same place
every year. Year after year.
But you can transfer
after
it.
Year.
There's so many. Have you not sat through one of these timeshare? You get a free bottle of tequila. You get a free spa service. You get all sorts of things.
We got a free bottle of tequila for winning a bags tournament in Mexico. Yeah, I don't need to sit through a 2-hour presentation for that.
But you didn't get the experience of having a salesman sit next to you and your mom and pitch the timeshare to your mom and her break the news to the poor guy that, oh, this guy right here is the one that actually has some money that can actually buy a timeshare.
No, because as previously stated, I make wise financial choices and I avoid anything that looks or resembles a timeshare like the plague, which is increasingly more difficult to avoid these days. But that's another topic for another day.
It really, so it was a confluence of me being cheap and not wanting to pay for my own spa service.
Yeah,
I think
that checks out.
That's really how it got me there. And 2 hours later, I probably would have been happier paying the $100 for the spa service.
Yes. Oh my goodness. But also, can we just talk about the fact that mother-in-law has just run shipshod all over these guys' boundaries? They're like, hey, can you not do this? And she's like, not only am I gonna am I doubling down and I'm gonna do it anyway, I'm gonna make you try and feel bad about it. Yeah. This is basically a mother-in-law going, hey, would you like me, upon my death, to leave you a steaming pile of shit on your front porch that's on fire that costs you $10,000 every year to put out?
Okay, so we've trashed mother-in-law. I'm going to spend a little bit of time. Where is OP? Where could he have done better? I think that's important when you have one of these asshole things, because a lot of people, they come and they're like, am I the asshole? And clearly they're not the asshole and it's boring, right? But where could OP have done better? Because we're all trying to self-actualize. We're all trying to improve ourselves, right? So where could he have done better?
So from the way that it's written, it says my mother-in-law and my husband and I. Honestly, this is between mother-in-law and her husband.
It is, yes.
She needs to have hubby lay down the law.
Right. And
for
that's a good question.
His family, right?
So I'm looking for pronouns here. So when we politely and respectfully ask mother-in-law, okay, so it's not, her husband is not throwing her to the wolves. So that's good. How could they, OP and her husband, have maybe approached it a little differently? So one option, it looks like they talked to an attorney. So this attorney says it's a hassle, right? When you look in the comments, there's a lot of people that are talking about maybe there are easier ways to get rid of these. I know there's websites where you can sell them for $1.
A penny.
And yeah, because this is end of life planning stuff, right? If you can do the research and be like, okay, this is dumb. I don't want it. I don't care about this, but it's not going to be a hassle. Therefore, I will just smile, nod, let this person die thinking that they did a nice thing. And then you throw it right in the trash, but they're dead, right? They don't see you throw it in the trash.
Yeah.
Because they did. Right. So that's the only, if we're looking for OP to improve her behavior, like maybe look for a way to avoid that conflict, especially when it comes to end of life stuff, estate planning stuff. If you can at least let somebody die thinking that they did a thing, I don't know, maybe seek that out. What do you think about that?
Yeah. Yeah. That seems like a very reasonable way to approach it. Like, I don't think that you could approach it better. You know, isn't it funny that you have to like gentle parent your own parents?
Yeah.
Like the same techniques work on your parents as they do your toddlers.
Yeah.
I see you're having really big feelings right now.
You're having big feelings, Susan. Sorry you got fleeced and you're in super debt because of buying 5 timeshares. Yeah, you're right. Maybe it's not OP's responsibility. And maybe I'm just too much of a pacifist and I'm too conflict avoidant for my own good. But that's where my head goes, is like, how can I avoid conflict with this angry boomer that is going to blow up at me because her timeshares aren't worth anything? That's where I would go with it. But like I said, that's conflict avoidance, and that's not always healthy. So I don't know. I'm not going to say I'm working on conflict avoidance because I don't know. I feel comfortable in conflict avoidance personally, but it is something I can recognize in myself as a potential problem.
We're going to fight?
We're going to fight about it? Not if I back down first.
Not if you avoid conflict. Oh, but people in the comments are saying that you can be willed something and you don't have to accept.
Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. Right.
He said, most places, even if something is willed to you, doesn't mean you have to accept it. Let mother-in-law know you plan to refuse it or gift it to an organization, preferably one that she doesn't like. You can disclaim the attempted bequest from the will. You will need a lawyer to file paperwork to rescind that. But honestly, I wonder if mother-in-law has no money and only has debt. Don't they take your liabilities from your assets and then you get whatever's left over? Does this count as an asset or a liability?
I don't know if an executor of a will, obviously we are not attorneys here. We are certainly not estate attorneys. I haven't even taken a loved one through the estate process.
Knock on wood.
Right. Love that for us. But I don't know if that executor of the will would go through the trouble of extracting any value that might be in these timeshares, if there is. I know when John Oliver did a whole episode on timeshares, and he did talk about websites that people use to sell them. Like his conclusion was they're scams up and down, but there are websites where people sell them, people buy them, yada, yada, yada. Right.
You buy them on eBay.
Yeah, you can buy them. And like I say, I think you mentioned it. There are places you buy a timeshare for a penny. And I don't know, maybe it works out if you're really only paying, she's paying on average $2,000 a year. If she gets a week of, or 2 weeks of hotel rooms in a really nice place for $2,000 a year, maybe it's not awful.
I mean,
she might have had to pay $20,000 up front, but if you don't have to do that, then yeah, maybe.
You know, I kind of wonder now what happened to my grandma's timeshare. She had a timeshare at some place on the beach in Florida. It could potentially be that place got, blown over in a hurricane, doesn't exist anymore, in which case that's a best case scenario. But, I don't know what happened to that. But my friend had a timeshare through this program. It was one of the ones that used like points and stuff. So you could like cash in your points for different places so you didn't have to go to the same place.
Right. Yeah.
And we went a couple of years in a row, a whole bunch of us. They had like a 2-bedroom hotel suite basically with their access level. And it was fun. You had a kitchen and everything. And it was in Wisconsin Dells. So we went skiing.
Okay.
And, it was a good time. But then we stopped going because their kids were getting a little older and they wanted to save up enough points to be able to use that anywhere near Disney. So we stopped going for that. But, I mean, that could work for you if you decide that it is worth it for your family if you don't have to pay $20,000 up front.
Sure.
But
now we're starting to sound like timeshare salesmen.
I know. Yeah. So. Buyer beware. I did have a friend who sold timeshares for a while.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's lucrative.
Only made it like 6 months. Yeah. No, it wasn't.
Oh.
It was horrible. Nobody bought a timeshare because everybody knew how bad timeshares are.
Yeah, they've got a rough. But yet still, like, you can find places that will. I know I've gotten offers recently, like, we'll put you up for a weekend in Vegas. You just have to sit in this room for 2 hours to, like, hear about.
You know what? We are in a tax bracket where our time is more valuable than that. And we will pay for the spa treatments if we want.
We will.
We aren't even spa people.
We are not spa people, but we are, like, weekend away people.
That's true. So, we are bottle of tequila people. Although I say that, and that was almost 2 years ago, and we still haven't even opened that bottle of tequila, so...
Yeah, the bottled tequila, I think, was actually part of a Hannibal Buress bit. He does a bit on timeshare salesman. But, okay. So, I think we beat the timeshares to death. Don't buy one. Don't.
Just don't.
Don't give them to your heirs as a problem for them to solve.
Leave them to the people that you hate.
But also be conflict avoidant and don't anger dying people. Or old people.
Only anger the ones that have no money.
Yeah. Only anger young and sprightly people.
They have the longest time to hold a grudge against you.
Yeah. They really set that grudge in. Thank you for listening to the Fire Takes podcast. Wanted to remind you that this is an entertainment podcast. Glenn and I, not financial planners, just opinionated. There are many ways to reach us if you just go to firetakespod.com. Including email, Instagram, Reddit, YouTube. You can hear more from Gwen at firymillennials.com. Thanks for joining us. Bye.